In my report, I explain how people can differ in their evaluation of evidence towards screening. At least 90% of what we know in medicine is the result of clinical observation, with the rest derived from randomized controlled trials. Experience is a great teacher, but when inferring the benefits of screening, clinical observation is flawed. Women with breast cancer detected mammographically have extremely good prognoses in comparison with those having cancers detected in any other way. But this doesn't mean that screening reduces mortality in itself. I explain why this is so in my report, and I discuss the associated biases. Hence the need for randomized trials. How impressive are the results of the trials? Suppose we ignore the Canadian trial, which showed no screening benefit, and take the results of the Swedish trials at face value. The most recent data from Sweden show a 21% reduction in breast cancer mortality. This is a paper that has been accepted to appear, is currently under embargo by the journal, and so I can't be too specific about it, but the 21% figure appeared in the press, and this is a lowering of the 30% figure which occurred earlier, and it applies to all ages. There is no distinction between less than 50 and greater than 50. This is a relative risk reduction. One way to convert it into a more meaningful absolute measure of risk is to ask the corresponding increase in life expectancy. Out to 18 years of follow-up in the Swedish trials, this increase is about 4 days per woman screened. In contrast, quitting smoking adds years to life expectancy. What should we tell women? The answer is the truth. The benefits of screening are uncertain, and women should know this. They should be informed of the possible benefits and risks, along with the associated uncertainties, and decide about screening for themselves. I discuss the risks of screening in my report, and I hope you ask me about that. Where do we go from here? We cannot do another randomized trial in this country. I completely agree with Dr. von Eschenbach. But there are several steps we can take, and there are developments being pursued. One is we should provide women with aids so that they can make informed decisions about screening. Secondly, the Swedish trial should be independently audited. Thirdly, there is an NCI-sponsored program called CISNET that addresses this question that Dr. von Eschenbach put up on the board regarding the decrease in breast cancer mortality, trying to apportion the relative contributions of screening mammography, hormonal therapy, and advances in chemotherapy. The fourth is the most promising of all. We know little about the biology of the disease, as Dr. von Eschenbach indicated, but we're learning. Cancers that manifest, cancers may manifest their metastatic potential. Yes, I'm almost done. Their metastatic potential when they are tiny, say when they total only a few million cells, or they may start sloughing off their tumors, the tumor cells for traveling to the rest of the body when they have become large enough to be detected mammographically. Screening would be effective in the second case, but not the first. We're learning fast about the biology of the disease, and soon we'll be able to decide which. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss this very important issue in women's health, a topic which I have dedicated and will continue to dedicate my career. I'm happy to answer questions.
Dr. Berry, let me, again, in layman's terms, let me just try to propound this question. All things being equal, as they say, if a woman has the opportunity to have mammogram screening available to her, say after age 40, and she can do the other things. She can obviously self-exam and have physicals every year. Would it be your advice to a woman to skip the mammogram? Saying she can afford it, all things being equal, that it's available and stuff, would you say just skip it? Or would you advise to have a mammogram as part of the toolbox that we talked about earlier of different things that we can do to try to detect?
I would not advise either way. I would discuss with the woman, as for example I have with my wife and daughters, what the benefits are, what the uncertainties are associated with those benefits, what the risks are, and the risks are they may be more important for one woman than another woman, and if that woman, including members of my family, decide to have a mammogram, I would support that to the utmost. If they decide not to, I would support that as well.
Is it true that is it factual that the earlier a cancer is discovered, in this case breast cancer, the earlier it's discovered, that the higher the probability will be that that woman could successfully have that treated one way or the other, surgical removal or whatever, and have a better probability of a longer lifespan and a healthier quality of lifespan than if that woman waited until the cancer had grown and metastasized. Is that a factual statement or not? You want me to repeat it?
No, I think I understand the question. If a woman has cancer and it is detected that, if somebody says to you, I have cancer, and it was detected mammographically, that woman has incredibly good prognosis. If it's not detected mammographically, she has poorer prognosis. That doesn't mean that the mammogram did it. As Dr. von Eschenbach indicated, there are tumors that are relatively indolent that are found with mammograms that may not ever be found in the course of the woman's life. The autopsy studies have shown in the UK that women have as much as 35% invasive disease that never affected their health. There is a lead time bias. There is a lead time associated with mammography that if you find it earlier, you may be, it's a very compelling notion. If you find it earlier, you may be able to treat it better. Does it really turn into a benefit? That's what the randomized trials are about. But there is a lead time bias. If you look at a woman and you find the woman, let's say 5 years earlier, that woman is going to live 5 years longer after you found the disease. That's one of the two biases I talk about in my report.
You said that in your statement, you said women with breast cancer detected mammographically have extremely good prognosis in comparison with those having cancer detected any other way. Mammographically detected tumors are smaller and are less likely to have spread to the axillary lymph nodes. Well, let me put it this way. I had a conversation with, yesterday on the phone with some breast cancer survivors in Iowa, and one woman said to me about false indications. She said, well, I'd rather have a false positive than a false negative.
Obviously.
Obviously. And so, again, you don't know, I don't know that there's any way to detect at an early stage whether a cancer is indolent or aggressive.
So far, not.
So far, not. So therefore, it would seem to me logical that if a woman could find a cancer earlier, not knowing whether it's indolent or aggressive, and it could be removed with the least invasive procedure, it would seem to me it'd be far ahead rather than waiting until later on.
If you could find the first cell that mutated, there's no question. The issue is when between that time and it becomes detectable by our current mammography, when between that time does it have a metastatic potential? And there we don't know. It may be already doing its dastardly deeds when it's only a few million cells when it cannot be detected mammographically.
I don't know how to respond to that. But it would still seem to me that again, I just as a layman, it seems to me that the earlier, I've always been told, maybe, am I wrong in this? The earlier you can detect a cancer, the better your prognosis is going to be.
There's no question about that.
You said
the question is, does it translate into a benefit for mortality? There are examples, for example, the neuroblastoma issue, where we detected lots of cancer really early, and we found out that it didn't convert into a mortality reduction.